Have you ever been frustrated with a conversation where you're presenting a new product or service that you know they should buy, a new idea that you know would solve their problem, a new workflow that you know would make everybody more efficient? But instead of getting that thumbs up and that obvious yes, instead you get resistance, maybe even some fighting about it, maybe some anger around it. Here's the thing. What research has shown is that change and the way we experience change is actually very similar to the way we experience grief. Think about it for a second. Grief is the loss of something, right? We're grieving something that we lost. Change and innovation is the loss of something for something new. We can't change, we can't innovate without letting go of something else. So what research has found, and what I've really found to be true in my work, is that the way we experience change and innovation is actually very similar to the Kubler-Ross grief cycle. In fact, what I found is that the Kubler-Ross grief cycle best explains the experience, the emotions, the responses to change and innovation. Let me walk you through it. Before I dig into each of these 5 stages of the grief cycle, I want to take a step back and just say, as I'm talking about this, I just want you to think about how you show up. When there's change and innovation in your world, how do you respond? And same with the people around you. Here's what I found when I've gone through this with leaders. I've done a lot of workshops around overcoming resistance to change, and this is always a part of it. And what I find is this really helps leaders identify where the people on their teams, where they are in the grief cycle, so that they can meet them where they are and help them move forward. Oftentimes, I think the mistake that we make is we think everybody's in the excitement, the acceptance of change and innovation, but they're not. Some are in anger, some are in depression, some are in denial, some are in bargaining. And we can't move them forward. We can't move ourselves forward if we don't actually understand where we are. So let's go through these. Denial. Denial is all about avoidance, confusion, elation, shock, fear. We've all been in denial about something in our lives. Now, someone once asked me in a workshop, how does elation fit into this? Well, have you ever known someone with a really bad credit card debt problem, but if you call them and say, let's go shopping, they're the most enthusiastic person ever. I'd love to go. That is elation. But you know, denial. This can't possibly be. If I just don't look at it, it'll go away. If I just put my head in the sand, when I come back up, everything will be back to normal. That's denial. Anger, frustration, irritation, anxiety, right? That's where we try to fight back. Bargaining, overwhelmed, helplessness, hostility, flight. This is where we try to run away. Bargaining is kind of the bottom, right? That's where we feel like there's no hope. Then there's depression, struggling to find the meaning. Why is this happening? Why do I have to deal with this? Reaching out to others. It's kind of that misery loves company moment where people try to pull other people down. That's depression. Telling one story. Wow, this can't work because of my rationale and my reasoning and my life, right? It's kind of, we're trying to make a story that makes sense of it all and makes us a little bit of the victim in it. So that's depression. And then there's acceptance, exploring options, new plan in place, moving on. You can see that one's got a little bit of an icon of a smile, right? Because we're actually accepting that we're moving forward. So some people go through all of these stages. Sometimes they start at anger and move over to acceptance. Here's the thing to understand. Meet people where they are. And if you do that, everybody will move forward faster. I really appreciate the grief cycle because, as I said, change and innovation, how we respond and experience that is very similar to this Kubler-Ross grief cycle. So just take a second and think about, where are you? Where are the people around you? And sometimes it's situational. I may be in acceptance about some things out of the gate, or other things I started anger or denial. Right? It's not all in one place. We kind of show up differently for different things in our work and life. But in understanding where we are on the grief cycle and where the people around us are will help us all move forward together. So I encourage you to just, like I said, take a moment. Think about where you are. Think about where the people around you are. Does that change maybe how you overcome your own resistors? Does that change how you communicate with the people around you? Once we understand this about ourselves and the people around us, it becomes a lot easier to move over to acceptance.